What's going on, everybody? American Football Network here with another video today. And today we are bringing you guys our Baylor preview and prediction video. But before we get started, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Comment those thoughts and opinions down below. Help me reach that goal of 1,400 subscribers by the end of August. Check out the description for links to our shop, podcast website, Patreon page, and our college football roundup channel. Today marks the last Saturday of 2024 without college football. It's pretty excited. Next week, we kick off the season with a big one, Florida State, Georgia Tech. I know everybody's excited for that one. And today, for this preview, we have a special guest on the show with us today, one of our biggest supporters over the last 2+ years, Scotty B, the Baylor King. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just ready for this football season to get started.
I hear you. I think we're all right there with you. But go ahead and let the viewers know where they can find you at on YouTube, and that way they can go check you out as well.
Just search Scotty B, the Baylor King on YouTube. Just type it in the search box.
There you have it. And I'll also put the link to his channel in there. It's at the bottom of the description in all my videos, and then I'll also put it in the comments and pin that comment so that way you guys can go check out Scotty B and go support another fellow Baylor fan. But let's go ahead and jump into today's video. So last year, a little bit of a disappointing season for Baylor football. They went 3-9 overall, 2-7 in the Big 12, and the season just never really did turn out very good. I mean, just right out of the gate, losing at home week 1 to Texas State, 42-31. But as I look through last year's schedule and results for Baylor, a lot of close games that both went their way and didn't go their way. You look, they lost to Utah 20-13 at home.
And keep in mind, they were up on the road
36-35.
They were up against Utah. They were up 13-3 at one point in the game against Utah.
Yep, and they let it slip away from them. Then they won on the road at UCF 36-35, and maybe if not the craziest games of last year. That game was just insane. A close win at Cincinnati 32-29, then a close loss to Houston in overtime 25-24, a close loss to West Virginia to end the season 34-31. So a lot of close games for Baylor last year. What was your main takeaways from last season with this Baylor football team?
They just simply lacked the energy and a fire. And they were just too small on the lines. I'm telling you that right now. And they were without two guys at nose tackle, the top two, due to injury and didn't play that much. So they had to go with the freshman that's like 273 pounds at nose tackle last year.
Yeah, Power 5, that isn't going to do it. You need to be bigger than that, bigger and stronger and faster. But Baylor, they did have a pretty good offseason. They bring in some big guys, and not just recruits, but a few transfers they add as well. They bring in the top recruit for them, Alex Foster, on the D line. A big get there. They also bring in Joseph Dodge, the 4-star running back. So they added some solid pieces to this team. They bring in the big transfer at quarterback, Daquan Finn. What were your thoughts on this offseason, Scotty B, for the Baylor Bears, and what were your favorite moves they made this offseason?
Obviously, you have to be like getting Daquan Finn because you need an instant guy with experience at quarterback, and there was a lot of mass overhaul on the staff. I'll tell you that much. When you look from last year's staff to this year, you'll know why. And Dave Aranda will be
sure. A lot of staff changes.
Yeah, and Dave Aranda will also be calling the defense this year, unlike in the past years.
And I think that'll be a good move. I think that's something that you want. I think you want Aranda. He's a great defensive mind. I think that'll be good. Him calling the defense, the defensive plays.
Mm-hmm. And they got bigger up front. They have 15 guys on the roster that are 300 pounds or more this year. When compared to last year, they only had 12 guys.
For sure, yeah, that was another thing that I noticed with Baylor this offseason is that they really improved that size on both lines of scrimmage, and that's something that you got to do. You got to get bigger. You can't get pushed around and manhandled like that. But let's go ahead and jump in to the schedule for this upcoming season. against for the Baylor Bears. So week one, they start out at home. They get Tarleton State. What are your thoughts on this game, and who do you have winning this one?
What's crazy is the offense coordinator that was there last year, Mason Miller, is actually on the Baylor staff as the offensive line coach.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was actually under the late Mike Leach, both at Mississippi State and Washington State prior. And this is a game where they just need to get the kinks into the system off to a strong start, and they need to dominate this game just to get your backups in by the fourth quarter and rest. And I know they were 9-2 last year, but Baylor should win this game. Tarleton State lost to Texas Tech pretty handily last year, so.
I agree. I agree. I think this is a game you want to get the new quarterback worked into the system, get these new pieces worked around, get these guys, and just like you said, all the kinks out of the offense and the defense. Just get those early seeds because you got a big one week two, so you want to work all that stuff out. And I think that I agree with you. This is a game if you're a Baylor fan, you want to win this game, 56-7, 59-7, something like that. You want to just come out and blow them out, have the starters out by halftime, third quarter, and just work everything out, get the offense rolling, get some good energy around the team. As week two, you have to go on the road to Utah. This is going to be a tough game. What are your thoughts on this one, and who do you have winning?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now that Utah will be without possibly their lean tackle from last year, Lavani Damuni, with a lower leg injury. There's not a lot of advantages in this game. I mean, Cam Rising playing his first Power 4 opponent since the injury. There's a few question marks on the offensive line with a few guys gone, especially their starting center and their secondary. They have to replace some pieces, but ultimately, the lines of scrimmage for Utah is just too good. Utah gets to win, though it may be like 10 points or more. It wouldn't be shocking if it was more than 10 points. It wouldn't be shocking if it was closer than the experts think. And the thing is, Utah doesn't have a lot of film on the new Baylor offense, so maybe that's an advantage, but I don't think it's not big of an advantage.
I agree. Yeah, this is going to be a tough game for Baylor to win. I see it like you said. I think it's about a 10-point win for Utah. I don't think Baylor's going to get blown out. I think with this new offense, they are going to be able to move the football some. I think they're going to be able to put some points on the board. But I just think ultimately at the end of the day, like you said, Utah is just too good, especially considering you have to go on the road to Utah. That's one of the toughest places to go on the road and get a win. I think it's going to be difficult for Baylor. I think they can keep it close, but I don't know if they're going to be able to pull it out. I got Utah winning this one, like you said, by about a 10-point margin. Is what I would guess. Then week three, you get the Air Force Falcons at home. Thoughts on this one, and who do you have winning this game?
Well, I know a few things about Air Force. They return the least amount of production in the entire country. And they don't have any guys on defense that have like 35 tackles or more coming back. And they lost all 5 starters in the offensive line and 4 guys that are like 2 or 3 deep as well. So there's a lot of newness for Air Force in this game, and I think they're going to take a step back. And Baylor better win this game because this is a trap game when I see one, especially when you're going against Colorado the following week. So you better not have a hangover against Utah. So I think Baylor somehow wins against Air Force. Though it may be tight because, the triple option, they play hard.
For sure. This is a game I have Baylor winning, but it's going to be a tricky game. It's going to be one that you have to be completely focused on this triple option from Air Force. So when I look at this Air Force team, like you said, they return the least amount of production in the country. Defensively, they don't have, they got to replace pretty much everything. They don't have a lot of returning experience or production coming back defensively. All 5 starters gone on the defensive line. When you look at this Air Force offense from recent years, there's been guys that you circle on the team that scare you all on that offense that are just playmakers and game changers. I don't see that on this year's team. And that, to me, that's why I'm going with Baylor here. I just think for the fact that Air Force, they just lack that playmaker on offense. Not with it being the triple option, yeah, Air Force is going to break off a big run or two. They'll get a long touchdown somewhere. But this is a game that I think Baylor will be perfectly fine in as long as they take care of the football and don't hurt themselves. I expect Baylor to get a win here, and I expect it to be a pretty comfortable win. Don't expect a whole lot of problems in this one, but again, as long as they take care of the football and don't hurt themselves, I don't think Air Force has the capability of beating Baylor when they're at their best. Now, moving on to week 4. So as of right now, we both have them at 2-1, going on the road at Colorado. What are your thoughts on this game, and who do you have winning it?
I just think Colorado is getting a little too much hype for my liking. And I get they have a quarterback advantage and everything, but it's not like significant. There's a problem with Colorado, though. It's the trenches. And I know they addressed it through the transfer portal like Baylor did, but they have more transfers than Baylor does. So, and Colorado has 3 tough games prior to this game. So I wonder how beat up Colorado will be coming into this game. And it may surprise some people. But because Baylor, I think, owns the edge at the line of scrimmage, and this is a 50-50 game, and it's going to be high scoring. But I think Baylor somehow wins at Colorado.
I agree. I have a win here for the Baylor Bears, and like you said, biggest thing for me is that advantage that Baylor has on both lines of scrimmage. I know Colorado brought in a lot of transfers, but when you look, every single starter on that offensive line is going to be new starters from last season. They play 3 tough games. I think Colorado could lose to North Dakota State week 1. That's going to be a tough game. If you don't have your offense and defensive line prepared and beefed up and ready for that one for a physical game, you're going to lose that game because North Dakota State's they they may have a better offensive line than most teams in the Big 12 um, do. Like
Mm-hmm.
that offensive line for North Dakota State's a real deal Power Five offensive line. Um, now, Colorado, they have, like you said, they do have the quarterback advantage. I think they have the advantage at wide receiver. But I think defensively, Baylor has the advantage. And on both lines of scrimmage, I think they have the advantage. And to me, that's where the game is going to be changed. I think Finn is going to have all day long to drop back and pass the football. And it doesn't matter how good your corners are, your secondary is. If you're giving a quarterback all day long to throw the football, he's going to find an open receiver. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a high scorer game, but I trust this Baylor team to get a stop late in the fourth quarter more than I trust this Colorado team. I think this is going to be a game that Colorado is going to have to outscore Baylor. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to stop them. And like I said, I think Baylor's going to have a tough time stopping Colorado too. But I think that Baylor has the opportunity to make Colorado a one-dimensional team and completely take away the running game. And that's the difference for me. So I have a win here for Baylor. Moving on, you get BYU at home. What are your thoughts on this one? Who do you have winning this game?
Well, it could be the Gary Bohannon reunion game, for all we know. He's not been named a starter yet, but it could be. And BYU may be better roster wise than a year ago, but their schedule's just brutal. And the thing is, BYU has concerns at the trenches. And for that reason, and it's at home and not at BYU because BYU is not used to these temperatures in Texas, especially in September. I think Baylor wins this game.
I agree with you. I got a win here for the Baylor Bears. I think when you look at this BYU team, like you said, problems in the trenches, just like Colorado. I think Baylor's going to be able to dominate both lines of scrimmage. I think it's a home game for Baylor. I don't trust BYU to win this game. So I'm giving the win to the Bears. Next up, they go on the road to Iowa State. Who do you have winning this game?
Well, I know last time Baylor went into Ames and won, though it was tight, but still a win's a win. And I don't really like Bronco Beck as much as DeQuan Finn. And I like the Baylor offense a little better than Iowa State, a little bit. Though I know they have that lean receiver from North Dakota State from last year on Iowa State's squad. And they also lost their third best wide receiver, Daniel Jackson, due to a leg injury in this game. But ultimately, Iowa State has the defensive edge. They win the game. I would be love to be proven wrong. How about that?
I'm with you on that one. I think Iowa State. I think these offenses are going to be pretty similar, and I think the edge goes with Iowa State. Not only because it's at Iowa State, but that defensive edge. I'm leaning Iowa State, though I'm not confident. I'm giving it to them like 60-40. Iowa State. I have this game as a loss for Baylor, but again, it's not gonna. It's one I wouldn't be surprised if Baylor comes out of there with a win. It's just not one that I'm necessarily confident in them doing so. I'm giving the edge to Iowa State. Then you get a bye week. Then you go on the road to Texas Tech. What are your thoughts on this one, and who do you have winning this one?
It is a much needed bye week to prepare for this game, especially 6 games in a row. That's just for starters. I
Yeah,
know the last year's game was not even close. And the year before, Baylor went to Lubbock and and won, and convincingly. The only problem is it's at Lubbock again. And prior to last time in Lubbock, and I know there's been a lot of meetings in Dallas throughout the years until like 2019, since the 2010 game or 2011 game. I don't remember, to be honest, on the last time in Lubbock. But I think Texas Tech gets the best of Baylor in this game due to the slight offensive advantage.
I agree, and that was my reasoning on this too. It one at Texas Tech, that's going to be tough. A pretty good atmosphere there in Lubbock. Um, but for me, I just look. I think Texas Tech has more weapons offensively. Morton is a solid quarterback for the Red Raiders. You look at Taj Brooks in the backfield. To me, he's the difference maker in this game. I think this will be a higher scoring football game. I think both teams will be able to put some points on the board. I think this game will finish somewhere in the both teams in the 30s potentially, breaking that 30 mark. But I think for me, Taj Brooks is going to be the difference in this game. I think he's going to break off a few runs, and then I think too, whenever if it's close late down the stretch, I think Taj Brooks is going to be able to just run that clock out. Um, and this Texas Tech offense, that for me is the difference in this game. Is I think Texas Tech has a slightly better offense than Baylor, and then you factor in it's a road game for the Bears. I'm taking the Red Raiders in this one. Although again, just like the Iowa State game, I wouldn't be shocked at all if this is a game that Baylor comes out on top in. It's definitely one of those 60-40 games in favor of the Red Raiders. Next up, you get Oklahoma State at home. What are your thoughts on this game, and who do you have winning?
Well, actually, I think Baylor splits the next 2 games. It doesn't really matter to me, but I think the Oklahoma State game is less winnable than a falling game against TCU because of Ollie Gordon. Though I am not confident in Alan Bowman at quarterback, and I know they have the defensive issues that they have to solve, especially against the run. And that's why I kind of see this as more winnable than some people do think because of the quarterback advantage. And it's at home and it's homecoming. But I just think this game is not as winnable as the following week against TCU. So I'm calling this a loss, but you never know. It is a letdown spot for Oklahoma State, though. It is a trap game.
It is. It definitely is 100%. And this is one of those games. You look at Oklahoma State and and this year's schedule. After Baylor, they get Arizona State, but they're coming off a tough little stretch of games at Kansas State, West Virginia at home, at BYU, and Utah before Kansas State. So they're playing four somewhat tough games before they get to Baylor. They could be a little bit tired, a little bit fatigued, as it could be. It's definitely one of those spots that could be a letdown spot. But when I look at this game, I'm going with Oklahoma State because I just feel that like you said, I don't trust Bowman either. I think Baylor has the quarterback advantage, but I think when it comes to offensive weapons, Oklahoma State has the advantage with Ollie Gordon at running back, but then Brennan Presley, Rashad Owens at wide receiver. I think that is where the advantage really stands. They do have the defensive issues, and I agree with you. This could be a letdown spot. We saw it last year with Oklahoma State, whenever they played South Alabama and lost 33-7 at home and got absolutely smacked around by them, or when they went on the road to UCF and lost 45-3. Oklahoma State has those just breakdown games where they just you're just like, what is this the same team I just watched last week or the rest of the season? It definitely could be one of those games for Oklahoma State, especially when you factor in it's at Baylor, it's homecoming. But I'm more confident in Oklahoma State getting this win. But again, this could be a game where I definitely could see Baylor pulling off the upset. Next up, you get TCU at home. What are your thoughts on this game? Who do you have winning it?
Well, I know Josh Hoover's the starting quarterback there now, but I don't know how much I trust him against this experienced Baylor secondary. And TCU does have to replace his four starters on the offensive line. And I get it's later on in the year. I get it. But I think Baylor has the defensive advantage in this game. And this game also, I might add, they will honor the 2013 and 2014 Baylor Big 12 champions. And I know Baylor's not done good against TCU since 2014. I mean, 2019's last win, but that's like 5 years ago. And I think that trend continues with Baylor somehow winning every 5 years against TCU in this game.
I agree. I have Baylor getting the win here. Like you said, I just don't know if I trust Josh Hoover that much. TCU's really been a mess since that blowout in the national championship game against Georgia. Defensively, they don't bring back a whole lot. Like you said, they replace the entire offensive line other than the center. I just don't see a lot on this TCU offense. I don't see a lot of playmakers. I don't see a lot of game changers offensively. I think that Baylor has the quarterback advantage. I think they have the advantage at wide receiver and running back. A guy we haven't mentioned his name yet, Monterey Baldwin. He's going to be a stud this year at wide receiver for Baylor. I think that this is a game he's going to go off, and I just don't see TCU's secondary being that good this year. So I have this down as a win for the Bears. Then you get a bye week, and then you get your last three games to close out the season. You go on the road at West Virginia off the bye week. What are your thoughts on this game, and who do you have winning it?
It is good to have the bye week before the West Virginia game. And West Virginia may not be the best passing team in the world or anything like that. So I would honestly just load the box against West Virginia all day long. And they have secondary issues as well they need to replace. And they lost a few guys on the trenches. Baylor's never won in Morgantown ever, not even with the best of Baylor teams. So until they prove me otherwise, West Virginia wins this game.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. I have West Virginia winning this game. I just think that they have too much. I think they're just a little bit of a better football team. I think that they're going to be too much. They're coming off of a very good season. From last year, went 9-4 overall, 6-3 in the Big 12. Really surprised a lot of people. Neil Brown kind of saving his job a little bit. But I think this is a game that West Virginia comes away with a win, especially with it in Morgantown. I just think Baylor is not quite as good as West Virginia offensively. I think the defenses are pretty similar in terms of talent, and so I'm giving the edge to West Virginia here. But again, it's one of those games I could see Baylor coming away with the win, and it wouldn't surprise me too much. Next up, they go on the road to Houston. Thoughts on this game, and who do you have winning?
It is a revenge game when I see one, especially when Baylor was down and out against Houston in regulation and they forced overtime and then a luck play on a snap to Donovan Smith on a 2-point conversion and they win the game. This is a game that I have to think is circled for Baylor, to be honest. And Houston is replacing a lot, and I get Donovan Smith is back. I get it. But Houston, to me, is one of the worst teams in the Big 12. Sorry, Houston fans, but I'm speaking the truth. You could be winless in conference this year. And this is one of those games that Houston will lose.
Yeah, I agree completely with you on this one. I have Baylor getting a win against Houston. I have Houston as the worst team in the Big 12, and like you said, it may hurt their feelings, but It's just the truth. They're the worst team in the Big 12. It's between them and Cincinnati,
Or
to
Arizona
be honest.
State.
And so, um, yeah, Arizona State as well. That's right. Um, so I'm not very confident in Houston. I think Baylor's by far the better football team. I don't think they should have a problem at all in this game. And like you said, revenge game for the just tough loss last year by 1 point in overtime. And then to close out the season, you get Kansas at home. Thoughts on this one, and who do you have winning?
I honestly don't know if Jalen Daniels is going to be healthy going into this game. Just to speak the truth, because he's been banged up in the past, and they do have some defensive issues. And it's the Jeff Grimes reunion game because Jeff Grimes is now at Kansas as offensive coordinator, and it's actually one of his sons is on the Baylor roster still as a long snapper, while his other son is actually at Kansas. So it's a Grimes fight when I see one, and I just have a hunch Baylor wins this game because the Kansas defense will have a letdown game. And not only that, Kansas has never won in Waco before.
Yep, I have this game as like you said. Who knows if Jalen Daniels is going to be healthy or not coming into this game? It's really something you can't say he is until we see it because he I don't know if he's made it through a full season in his entire career.
Maybe his freshman
So
year.
it's not
Maybe.
something. Yeah, maybe freshman year, but I just don't know. And you got Cole Ballard behind him. You don't have Jason Bean anymore. So you don't have a solid QB behind him that could start for some other schools. So it's something to watch. But when I look at this defense that Kansas has, particularly in the secondary, headlined by the big dog Kobe Bryant, and I look at this running back Devin Neal that they have. I just think Kansas has too much. I think they're going to be too good. I think Kansas could get the win even without Jalen Daniels. I think it would obviously be a lot closer, but I do think that they could get the win without him. So I do have Baylor losing this game, but it's going to be one that who knows what happens, especially if Daniels is out. Who knows
Yeah.
what the game turns into? But I believe we agreed on all the games, and we
Except the
have
last
that
one.
would mean we have Baylor going. What's that?
Except the last one, of course. But that's
Yeah,
besides
yeah,
the
yeah,
point.
yeah. So I have them at 6-6. You had them at 7-5.
That to me is the ceiling. I don't see 8 wins. I'm not expecting it, but maybe.
I don't see 8 wins because I feel like if you steal one of these games, I feel like that you're probably gonna drop one that you should have won. I don't. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see 8 wins. I think 7-5 probably is the ceiling. I think 5-7's probably the floor. I don't see a way that you don't win 5 games with the schedule, unless you just come out and just have a season like you did last year. But I feel like last year was rock bottom, and the only way to go is up. So yeah, so I think we both agree Baylor makes a bowl game this year, and that'll be a step back in the right direction after last season. But that's gonna wrap up today's video. Remember, hit that subscribe button. Now we reach that goal of 1,400 subscribers by the end of August. We're about 60 away from that goal, so let's get rolling on that. Again, thank you, Scotty B, for joining us. Make sure you guys go check him out. I'll have his link in the description and pinned in the comments for you guys. So go check him out. Go subscribe to his channel. Great stuff over there from Scotty B. But we appreciate all of you guys tuning in today.